Tomorrow marks exactly 1 month until the NFL draft. What are the Texans' biggest needs a month away from the draft? Let's talk about it. This is the Texans Better Talk Show. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more daily Texans content. Really can't do it without you guys. But without further ado, let's get straight into this. And one disclaimer, their biggest need does not have to be addressed in the first round. Their first round pick does not have to address the biggest need. This is just what I personally think are the Texans' biggest needs at this point after free agency with a month left before the big NFL draft. So let's get straight into it. That first need is going to be the interior offensive line. Reasons are pretty simple once I read you some of these names. So you've got Jarrett Patterson, who's starting at center. He was a sixth round pick in the same draft class as Juice Scruggs, who is also a center, but is now having to play right guard. So those are your first two starters. Then your starter it's probably Titus Howard. I have an asterisk because I could also see him playing a tackle spot, but you brought in Ed Ingram and Lincoln Tomlinson. Let's start with Lincoln Tomlinson. He played on one of the worst offensive lines in all of football last year. Specifically, their interior was extremely bad, and he played a guard for the Seattle Seahawks. They did not have a great interior offensive line. Lincoln Tomlinson was a Pro Bowler before. He did play right next to Trent Brown. He has shown a high level of play, but it seems to have kind of been wavering and falling a little bit. And then he's just coming off arguably one of the worst seasons in his career, especially when you take into account how bad the Seattle Seahawks offensive line was. Now let's talk about Ed Ingram, a player that we gave up a 2026 sixth-round pick for in a trade with the Minnesota Vikings. Look, Ed Ingram has not lived up to the second-round pick hype. He just hasn't. They've played him a lot his rookie year. He was the starting guard, and he did not do well. They played him a little less in his sophomore season. Didn't really go well. In the third season, this past season, they tried to play him less. Their replacement got injured. Ultimately, once their replacement was healthy, they swapped him, and Ed Ingram's playing time has just gone straight down with the Minnesota Vikings. Nick Caserio obviously likes something in Ed Ingram, something to give up that sixth-round pick for, albeit a future sixth-round pick. You're really hoping Ed Ingram can just figure it out, but you're not expecting him to. You are not expecting Ed Ingram to figure it out, and you also really shouldn't expect Lincoln Tomlinson to really figure it out either, meaning you have a questionable interior offensive line, to say the least. I'll also add that a really good guard could potentially put Juice Scruggs at center as well if Titus Howard plays guard, and you would really bolster up that line, assuming Juice Scruggs beats out Jarrett Patterson. So I really think a good guard, a blue chip guard like Tyler Booker, for example, would be the Texans' biggest need right now, especially when you take into account the offensive tackle situation, which we'll talk about in a bit. Moving on to the second biggest need, without a doubt, I think, is wide receiver. Wide receiver is a huge need for the Houston Texans going into the draft. Let's start at the top. Nico Collins, one of the best receivers in the league. You're without a doubt wide receiver one. Christian Kirk is a person that you picked up. You didn't let him hit free agency. Probably one of the better trades you made this season, at least Nick Caserio made. Christian Kirk got paid a while back, had a great season after he got paid, ultimately faced injuries and just didn't perform as well. Look, Christian Kirk, I think you can expect a little bit more of this season. That's why I don't have wide receiver being the first need, because I do think there's a little juice left to Christian Kirk. He had a really bizarre collarbone injury, which doesn't normally happen for receivers. And the thing about Christian Kirk is his mindset's in the right spot. He wants to be the best person on his team. He wants to get better. He was just raised correctly by his father and his family. His story is really interesting as well. Christian Kirk is a guy who's going to give it all, and he's going to try his best to be amazing. So I'm hoping he can be a solidified wide receiver 2, but maybe realistic expectations are more of a wide receiver 3. Braxton Berrios made the team. He's really going to be like a return guy, maybe a punt returner. Justin Watson is a very athletically gifted person or receiver coming over from the Chiefs, more of a depth signing. John Mechie might not make the team. I just forgot to put his hyphen. I didn't mean to do that. But John Mechie might not make the team. Consider if these other guys make it. And Xavier Hutchinson, he's shown flashes, but I'm not ready to call him a wide receiver 3. And I have him slightly above Mechie. I don't think neither one of them is a bona fide wide receiver 3 at this point. Tank Dell, obviously injured, probably will not play this season. So let's say you take 5 receivers and you draft one, then it's really going to be a bloodbath between Xavier Hutchinson and John Mechie to battle it out to fill that last spot. And I think there's a very real possibility that John Mechie is not on this team next year. And if you don't draft a wide receiver, this is your wide receiver room, and you don't even know if you have a wide receiver too. So it is very less than ideal, to say the least. But finally, let's talk about the last need. You guessed it, ending with the offensive tackle situation. You brought in Cam Robinson, who's going to play left tackle. He just got paid like a left tackle, $14 million a year. He will probably be your left tackle unless somehow Titus Howard can take the spot for himself. Let's not forget about Blake Fisher, who is our right tackle as of right now. Trent Brown might give Blake Fisher a run for his money at right tackle. Trent Brown being 6'8", 370 pounds, just a huge dude that you brought in. He suffered a patellar tendon tear, which I've talked about before on this channel. It's not ideal. It's a very serious injury. He's coming over from the Bengals, where he only played 3 games before that injury ultimately set him back a while. So I do want to mention that Zach Thomas and Austin Deculus are also on the roster. Zach Thomas, you brought in last year during the season from the Patriots. He saw a little bit of playing time, not too much really. He's on a very minimal contract. Austin Deculus as well has rarely touched the field. So this is your offensive tackle situation. I do think there's, while maybe not as much depth, about equal depth to the guard situation. I think the depth is better. I think Trent Brown has more potential than Ed Ingram and Lincoln Tomlinson. I think Cam Robinson has potential to be a starter, who you brought in because he's serviceable, whereas I don't really think Ed Ingram and Lincoln Tomlinson have starting potential. So that is my list to kind of recap. Interior offensive line at 1, wide receiver at 2, offensive tackle at 3. But let me know, guys, what is your biggest needs for the Houston Texans a month away from the draft? Anything you agree with, anything you disagree with? Don't forget to like and subscribe and hit that bell. Stay tuned for more daily Texans content, and I will see you guys in the next one, man. Peace out.